Attention students, the Jabroni University Network is now in session. Please make your way to class.
Rat Chaser. Rat Chaser. Rat Chaser. Rat Chaser. Rat Chaser.
It's always a couple more than you think. Coming to you from fabulous Studio B Plus in Bradenton, Florida. It's the Chaser Brothers podcast with me, the son of Rad Chaser, and the man of the hour who reads Nintendo Power, the Bionic Commando from Orlando, the gamer who should come with a disclaimer.
Rat Chaser.
That is indeed me. And that was the jingliest of jingles provided by Tokyo Elvis, a guy that I've known for longer than you've been alive. Go check him out. TokyoElvisOfficial.com. Online.
You don't know him longer than I've been alive.
By you, I mean you, the listener.
Oh,
I'm
right.
I'm
not
to you.
everything
I'm talking to
revolves
the
around
listener.
me.
No, everything revolves around the listener. I'm talking to them. You're just there.
Not everything revolves
Unfortunately.
around me, and I decided to call myself the son of Rad Chaser.
Right, you revolving around me.
E.
What's going on?
We're back. We're back again. Another week logged in. We got some, more content in the pipeline. You've been churning out a couple of game. You've been going nuts with the GameCube stuff, which is great. People love that GameCube kiosk.
Yep, a few months ago, I acquired a GameCube kiosk, basically from you, by way of our sister, by way of your friends of yours back in the day. You liberated this GameCube kiosk from Circuit City. If you guys haven't heard of Circuit City, that was a store you'd go into, like a Best Buy. And they'd have, various bibs and bobs electronics, CDs, if you've ever heard of those.
It was Best Buy, but red.
It was a different skin.
Basically.
I'm outside. I'm in the lobby. I'm going to change the color of the skin of whatever place I'm going into. And then that's that. So, the thing, I got it. I got the GameCube kiosk. It was in fairly working condition. I was surprised that everything worked on it, because it's sort of been sitting in storage, being shuffled around over the years. So it was nice. There wasn't tons of things to do that I had to do to get it up and running. It didn't have an actual GameCube with it, but I had one of those, which was fine.
It just needed to be cleaned off, really.
Yeah, it was just just need a little TLC, Just needed somebody to pay attention to it, like most of us need. I'll get that someday.
Until then, I'll just keep touching that soft pillow on my couch.
That Supersonico pillow that I have. You guys ever seen the Supersonico video that I made? Basically, it's first off, if you never heard of Supersonico, she's a schoolgirl. It's a schoolgirl anime, I'd say. She plays in a band. And she's got huge honkers. I forgot. I should have led with that one. That probably would have kept you roped in.
Yeah. Also, in your fantasy, you're also in high school or middle school or whatever.
Correct.
I don't
Or her
know.
manager. Or her manager. Choose your fantasy.
Yeah, they sure know how to write perverted characters over there. I mean, everyone's good at writing that stuff, so it's fine.
Oh, look, much like everything Japan does, it's better than the rest of the world does. So, just give into it. Just go there. I'll go there. I'll go there and I'll stay there. And then I'll become better.
She's good. You're so cool and handsome, Rad Chaser. I wish I weren't a pillow so I could be your real girlfriend.
You're handsome and smart. Anyhowdly hoodly, the GameCube is it's up and running. We made long videos on it. I started making a couple shorts. I was like, you know what, it's sitting there. Let me make a short. And, they sort of popped off. So I was like, ooh, okay, let's make more of these. So we're on that. I'm on a bit of a tear. I mean, I don't have tons of videos, but the problem is I need more games. I got a GameCube kiosk, and I don't have a lot of GameCube games. And that could be a problem. I can't keep playing Mario Kart over and over.
A lot of people disagree about that. People love Double Dash,
Okay, fair.
but
fair,
but you can't put out 5 Double Dash videos every. I mean, you could. If you started really digging into playing Double Dash, I mean, you could bring a lot of. You could get every drop of blood out of that stone you could.
This is day 1 of me playing Mario Kart Double Dash.
Rad Chaser, this is day 95 of me playing Mario Kart Double Dash.
Right, it's just me starting it up, choosing, whatever the first, the easiest level, 50cc mushroom, whatever. How does this game work?
Oh my goodness. So, okay. Speaking of getting games for stuff, you chased down a couple of NES games. So we're tell me about that, because that's gonna go towards that getting that 100. What'd you grab?
Sure, I was I was on eBay, and sometimes I like to filter. I'll search NES games, and sometimes I'll filter by ending soonest, so you can see what's going to be ending here pretty soon. So there were a couple things on there ending within like a couple of minutes. I was like, ooh, okay. So I'm looking through. I saw a couple games. There was a 2-game lot, and it was Commando, not Bionic Commando. There's 2 different Commando games.
Just Reg Commando.
Reggae. And then I was going to try to learn how to pronounce it before the podcast started, but I didn't. So it's Astinax, Asta something.
I'm pretty sure it's Astanax. There's no extra I in there. It's just Astynax.
Well, nobody Astanaxed you.
Nasty X.
A lot of X's and Y's. But they were both complete in box. The boxes are they aren't extra tasty crispy, but they are boxes. So I'm okay with that. We chase down on a budget. We chase down on a price. We haven't done the infinite money code like in SimCity, where you can get infinite money.
You get $1 million.
You get all 9s.
Oh no, it's not infinite.
It goes a long way.
Why? I don't know why I'm splitting hairs here.
That's your job. As producer of the podcast, that's your job.
Sorry, the amount of money that you get is $1 more than $1 less than what I said it was. My bad.
Factually accurate. That's your job. You're a fact checker.
Here's a code for you to become a corrupt city planner. Yeah, you do have $1 million to build this city now. Where did the money come from? A lot of handshake deals. a lot of clandestine meetings.
Don't worry about the money. Let us worry about the money. I'm the mayor. You go live your life.
Yeah. Don't
watch out for Godzilla and tornadoes.
Do you want to know where this money came from, or do you want a nice park that you can go to by your house in a residential area that's, not mired in pollution and crime?
Right. Do you want to know where the money came from, or do you want a giant Mario statue staring at you every day through your window?
Yeah. Now, I'd listen. Getting the Mario statue is, this is my real life goal here. Is I want to make it to the Tricentennial. Now I gotta make it to 2076 to do that. I think I can make it there. I'm gonna be quite old. Be pushing 100 at that point. But I want to go to Philly. I want to go to Philly for the Tricentennial. I don't.
Okay.
I think it's just from watching Rocky and just being like, man, like that movie came out during the bicentennial, and it's just like, I don't know. In my mind, it's gonna be the 1970s and not the 2070s. Just be hanging out in Philly, you know.
Well, sure. Your mind at that age is going to be a giant bowl of soup, anyway. So it will be whatever your fantasy is, whatever nerve cells you got going on left in there. So good, very good.
You young men never seen Rocky? Yeah, the original or the reboot?
Rocky 12.
Yeah, from beyond the grave.
The Ghost of Rocky. Right. So NES games, Commando and Astyanax.
Okay.
What? Who came up with that one? What are we gonna call this one? I don't know. Let's use a bunch of letters nobody likes to use anymore.
Yeah, God forbid anyone have an imagination.
Got to pronounce it if you want to play it.
Tell that to Galadriel.
He sounds weird. Okay, so
she is from Lord of the Rings, but continue.
See, you swap genders on me. 2 NES games added to the stack, 2 out of 100. We really haven't defined the NES challenge so far. I mean, 100 is a good number. Okay, now specifically, we've discussed. Let's go off of a list. I didn't even check to see if these 2 are on a list, so I've sort of thrown that to the wind. But we're up 2. Either way, if we want to stick to the list, we can.
So
I'm excited though.
Yeah, so it's not undirected stuff, Lust, because it's directed.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's also not a. We don't know that it's directly purchased with a cause. So I guess it's sort of like directed stuff, Lust. Like I know I have to get these things, but I don't know exactly what I'm gonna get. But I'm getting something in the ballpark.
It's indirect stuff, Lust. There's it's not undirected, it's it's not direct, it's indirect.
It's something.
The important part is it's more stuff coming in. The stack, it's growing higher. That's the ultimate goal. I want to be buried in video games. And then when I'm ultimately buried, I want to be buried with the video games. That's right. They're going with me. I can take it with me.
I think this is as good a time as any. We weren't. See, this is what happens when you don't have a plan when you go into these conversations. You think of something, and now that becomes a conversation. So let's talk about our plans for the afterlife.
Sure. So we've devised. It's a pretty good idea. I think everybody will be happy, and by everybody, our ghosts. Our ghosts the most. We're going to have a mausoleum of sorts. It's going to have all of our stuff in it. Okay, so you can come and you can visit. There'll be Wi-Fi. You can, go on your phone while you're visiting us. All our stuff will be there. It'll be on display, like a museum. Don't touch anything. Just look at it. This is what we were up to when we were alive.
Well, see, I thought we were allowed to touch stuff. It's more, it's almost like a coffee shop. You know what? Let's see if we can get a coffee shop in the place, because I feel like that would. I like the idea of my ghost, being able to be like, okay, I need that venti ice latte right now in the afterlife. But while I'm sitting here watching, floating above. If you want to see what I look like as a ghost, check out the most recent video.
Here we go with the plug. Slick, very slick. Yeah, so
I died from having billions of X-rays blasted into my body. I didn't make it to 92 or 96 or whatever I have to do to get to the tricentennial.
You're not gonna see the reboot of Rocky 12. For sure. So the recent video we made, we came up with an elegant solution because, the son of Chaser and I are not always together. We're apart more than we're together, which is tragic in its own right. However, we're going to record his parts, okay, and we're going to with movie magic, we're going to put him into the room with me as a we can't say Force ghost. So we're going to call him an apparition of influence.
which I messed up. I said apparition of interest. So
You did.
you just rolled with it.
I did. Apparition of influence, more syllables, less intelligible. So, it's a discount.
I mean, I'll come back as an apparition of influence the next time and just be like, I messed it up last time. Sorry, I'm a ghost.
Right. The important part is you do the voice. The voice is the good part about it. Listeners, if you haven't seen the most recent video,
what does
go.
being a ghost have to do with not getting the name right? Silence.
Right. Why does your name change? Why does your voice change now that you're a ghost? Now you have to be spooky. You didn't talk like that when you were alive.
Right. But see, this is there's that, but then if I get annoyed as a ghost, then my voice goes back to regular voice.
For sure. The facade comes down.
Okay,
That's the real you.
So we have the mausoleum thing, and so this is the thing. Yes, I understand the idea of, I don't want you touching the stuff, but like also all of my stuff is very much like, hey, absolutely touch the stuff. I'm thinking more of like an Oxford college thing where it's like, okay, you need to wash your hands, and here's a set of white gloves. So
Sure.
if you're gonna handle the records, here's this clean. We're trusting you to do this. This is gonna be like a crowdfunded thing like Wikipedia. So it's you go in, you kick in $5.
That's the donation to keep the place running.
Yeah, the trust basically just keeps the place maintenance. Maybe we get the actual, the Starbucks sponsorship, that could be something there. But at least someone on hand, just to tidy up, so serve the coffee at a fair wage, that kind of thing. We get the GameCube kiosk will be set up. Hopefully there'll be more than just Double Dash to play by the time.
You have to get one of those, what is it, like an EverDrive or something, whatever, an equivalent. We'll have a modded GameCube in there so you can pick a bunch of games. That's fine.
Yeah, the
games we purchased, of course, legally.
Yeah, the actual physical games will be in there. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with handling the stuff. But if it's if it's extra tasty, crispy, and it's in a protected thing, like you're gonna have to put on the white gloves.
Sure.
Which is also fine. Hey, look, this is, we haven't discussed this before, but we could talk about membership tiers. It's like, okay, you have to have been coming here, pay your dues for X amount of time. Like we're not just gonna let any geek off the street go into the back room where all the actual stuff is, or like give them access to it. So once you go past that stage, it's like, okay, you can be trusted. We know that you come in here a lot. I've decided not to haunt you or your family. Which, by the way, don't take the stuff. The stuff stays there. Otherwise, you get the Pharaoh's curse.
Well, right. It's just like those pyramids in the 1930s. People go explore them. They think they can make off with a little trinket, and then they end up dead. Days later, clutching whatever it was. Paradoxically, so don't take the stuff. I'm okay with people touching the stuff, but if you're a child, you're not going in there without an adult. First off, and secondly, you're not touching it. I don't care how clean your little grubby mitts are, even if you're wearing, you're not touching it. I don't know how you feel about it. I know you might have a different opinion since you have children, but mine's gonna be it's a child-free philosophy.
Hakuna Matata. I think
Right.
I think we discussed that there would be a children's area, and that's where all the emulators stuff will be. That's okay. You know, they could run Riot. There's rubber floors in there. You know, that's where like, yeah, sure. Let them do, like, it's a pen for the kids. It's fun. They have access to all the same media, but that's where everything is like, okay, there's a bunch of stations with, like, $10 sets of headphones. Just a big menu where it's like, okay, like, these are the video game stations, these are the music stations, blah, 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 blah. And then that's the area that's basically like at any other theme park where you have a place where you just deposit the little kids, and then they go in there, and then that's fine. If you got a kid who's older and well behaved, at the discretion of the what's the person at the museum called? It's what Ross Geller did. That's what his job was.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's sit there and look that up while I yap for a second, because the word's not popping into my head immediately. But docent.
Hakuna. I got one
docent,
thing real quick.
The word is docent. You don't gotta look it up. So the docent will be there, and they'll give the kid a quick ocular pat down and be like, okay, this looks good. Impose an age. We can impose an age restriction, but it can be at the discretion of the docent, who's gonna sit there, walk everyone through. I'm liking this idea, man.
Hakuna no toucha.
So we got the area for the kids. We've got the main area. It's set up. It's set up with there's couches and stuff. It's a Starbucks but with stuff in it, essentially. So
All right, it's now an amusement. It's turning into an amusement park, really.
Well, I mean, okay. It's
A roadside oddity.
I mean, look, we can hammer out the details however we like. I mean, there can also just be a separate section where it's like, okay, here's the like the little coffee shop section, and that place can be a little coffee shop in itself, but with the twist of whatever. That's like, okay, if you're in here, here's this is the music that's playing. You don't really have control over that, so you're sort of in there, and it's. You got some TV screens like in the bar, but they're running video games or whatever. It's that place is more of a sit down, chat. Like, oh man, did you go into the GameCube room? Like, yes, all they had was Mario Kart, but it was still pretty cool. The GameCube kiosk. Let's move on, but
I wasn't allowed to touch anything.
So I don't know. It started as a pharaoh's tomb, and then it sort of like went into this giant immersive multimedia experience. But we'll get the apparitions of influence of ourself there. A lot of pre-recorded messages.
I do know one thing. I've come out of this whole experience confused.
Be confounded about it, but really think about it. Nothing like that exists. The closest thing to it was the the pharaoh's tombs. Listen, don't ever
update.
listen to someone who says you can't take it with you. You can, and we devised a method on how to do that.
Right, we just laid it out.
And the only time you'll ever hear us say you can't take it with you is if you try to take our stuff out of the museum.
All right.
You
That
can
is gonna
take
be
your
in
own
big,
stuff
bold
with
letters.
you. You can't take our stuff.
You can't take our stuff with you. Unless you go to the gift shop and get like replicas of whatever it is we've got, then you can take that. You can leave your money and you can take more stuff of your own.
I like the idea of the gift shop is just it's filled with repros. the gift shop is just all repro stuff.
Expensive ones too. We don't sell them cheap just because they're repros.
Yeah. Repros emulator systems.
Red Chaser.
Yeah. Speaking of Mario Kart, how about have you seen the new Switch 2 video?
Ooh, sass. I like the video. It's there. If we take the pulse of the online, the general tenor there seems to be like, well, it's not very different, and
Sure.
and generally people like to get mad because it's just, well, this thing can't do this, then blah 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 blah. And I feel like people always have that gripe about Nintendo stuff, and it's like they haven't been trying to be technologically superior for like 2 decades now. Like,
Right.
like why? you know what I mean? It's 2025 right now. The Nintendo 64 came out in 1996. The GameCube came out in 96, 97. GameCube came out in 2000,
September something.
2001. Okay, so like we can definitely say for 20 years, Nintendo has not ever actively tried to have been the technologically superior gaming system. So I always just get annoyed where it's like, well, it needs to be able to do this, that, and the third thing, and it needs to be able to do blah 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 blah. And really, in my mind, like it just needs to be able to put out fun video games with IPs
sure.
that I enjoy, which it has done and always will do, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I made a little reaction video on it, and I saw it, and it looks cool. It's just it's bigger a little bit. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit it looks a little bit more adult. They're not like primary colors, red and blue. They're like a little more muted colors on it, so it looks a little more elegant, I guess you could say. It kind of looks like a Steam Deck, if I'm being honest. If you've seen one of those, it's got a similar look. I mean, a lot of these handheld things kind of have that whole look to it, so that's fine. So I saw somebody mention, I didn't really catch it in the video, but they sort of had one of the Joy-Cons like gliding over like a mouse, and they're like, well, it looks like it might have, mouse functionality. So that was interesting. That was an interesting thought. I don't know what the application there would be, but that was kind of cool. Do we think it's going to be like just like a Wii U situation? It's like, okay, well, we've got this Wii, and now we've put out the Wii U, and it's basically just a souped-up version of the last thing. They didn't, it's just a Switch 2. They didn't even come up with a cool name. Super Switch. Super Nintendo Switch. Something.
Yeah, okay. So
why do I want to get it, I guess is the question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I want to get it because the word Nintendo is on it. So I'm sorry,
yeah.
That's a good enough reason for me.
That's another point. Yeah, I was saying like, am I going to get it day one? Probably not. Am I going to get it because it's Nintendo and it's another console and something else they put out? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear you on that one.
I'm sure from a tech standpoint, it's definitely going to be souped up. It's going to be beefier. My thing is I don't usually ever exploit the mobile functionality of the Switch. I mean, mine's usually loaded in its stock. Have I before? Yes. Is that convenient? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. the average consumer is what I don't know. I don't know what the goal to buying it is there, other than for the Switch has been out for 8 years now, and for the last 7 years, people are like, when's the Switch 2 going to come out? It feels like
Right.
It'll be stronger. I mean, I don't know if they decide to change how the interface is and how they do their online gaming. I don't know. Ultimately, what's going to happen is games that they are going to produce that can't come out on the Switch. And trust me, when you look at games like Breath of the Wild that are so like robust, like it's insane that they're able to wring out that kind of experience out of the technology that they have in that thing. There will be less technological hindrances, I suppose, for them to make games in the future. But ultimately, it's just going to be like, well, we're going to start making games on this, we're going to start making games on this system now. And that enough for me is going to be like, well, if I have to buy a Switch 2 to play Metroid Prime 4, then I'm going to buy a Switch 2 to play Metroid Prime 4.
Well, right, and that's, again, that's what it boils down to for me usually, or probably, I don't know, for most people, like that killer app, that game that needs to, that you're like, well, this is the only platform it's on, so I'm gonna have to get the console because I want to play the game.
Yeah, that's true. Metroid Prime 4 is slated to come out next year. We're gonna find out in April, but that's certainly going to be a thing that's going to be like, hey, you have to get this system to play this game. So a lot of people are going to go for that.
Sure. It's like before it was like, you would get like a PS2 because it had a DVD player, or a PS3 because it was a relatively cheap Blu-ray player. That was enough incentive to get just the console. That they don't really have that now. Disc-based games are going out, obviously. So you're gonna have to have a reason to buy this thing. The games. I feel like they should always boil down to the games anyway.
Yeah. I haven't really messed around. With it. Can you download like Hulu and Netflix and stuff to the Switch?
That is a good question. I think you can. Anybody know that answer? We're doing a podcast about video games, so we don't know anything about video games. Naturally.
Yeah, I would think that I would think that if that functionality was gone from the Switch, I just don't know. I've got consoles that have all those things on them peppered around the house for the rooms that don't have smart TVs in them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was a thing that they took off. I gotta think it was, because I don't know. Who cares about us speculating about this? Moving on to the next thing. I don't know that there's some reason for the average consumer to get it when they already had the thing. But it's gonna boil down to the games, or them being like, hey, here's this functionality that we don't have with the previous system that we're now going to have on this thing.
Well, sure.
I would have to. They really should overhaul the way that they do online gaming, because it's just not great, and it hasn't been, and the ability to do it very well exists. So I think that would be the other thing, maybe.
Sure. And look, it's like, like when that PS5 Pro came out, do you think people are scrambling to buy that thing? We had this chat before too, and it's like, it's just basically the same, but, a little bit better.
not even like blow it out of the water better. Just like this thing is really better. Make sure your eyeglasses prescription is up to date so you can really see it. Otherwise,
Sure. It displays in higher resolution than you can see. So I don't know how we did it. If we can't see it, I don't know how. We just have to trust that it does that. And it's $200 more than a base model. It's an expensive hobby. And, speaking of expensive hobbies, back to the NES stacks, it's just like, in my head, I say, okay, because the number for me was like, okay, it's going to be like 8 games a month was like the number I need to like kind of hit every month to get to the 100 by the end of the year. And in my head, garbage tier NES games you can find for like, $5. So 5 times 8, whatever, $40 a month. Okay, that sounds great. But now it's like, okay, if we're refining the approach, if we're getting that list of 100 games, a lot of these games are, a little pricey. And of course, I'm speaking for the lay person, the casual hobbyist, the collector, like, do you want to be paying, $20, $30, $40 a game for, a retro game? That's a big question for people too. I feel like, these hobbies like have blown up and they've, everything's expensive now. It's like the things we like. I don't know what you're into, but by that giant stack of records in the background there, I could, you're in the vinyl records too. So am I. So it's like, once those things started popping off, now you're paying out the yin yang for vinyl records. It didn't used to be that way, but somebody figured out that they're catching on, and now they've jacked up the prices. We're getting boxed out of our hobbies. Some girl can go to Walmart and get a Taylor Swift record.
Right. So Adele, so people can
oh boy
throw Adele records at each other in the front yard.
It's gonna be E.T. on Atari all over again. They're gonna find him in the future in dumps.
Oh gosh.
By the boatload.
I don't like to say these kind of things because it starts to age you, and it's definitely it's boomer like speak.
But when I was your age,
here
we go.
Here we go. So these we're getting to that point in our lives where it's like, well, 20 years ago, like doesn't seem like a long time ago. Doesn't seem like a long time ago to us, but it's the price of the average vinyl record has doubled over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Which I guess saying in context doesn't sound crazy, but when I was chasing down certain vinyl records, one of the albums that I paid, it was like $110 I spent on this album, and this wasn't 20 years ago. This was like 10 years ago that I spent this money. Was on Clarity by Jimmy Eat World. I got a first press of that. I spent $110 on that. You spent $10 on that album, and yours is signed. Yours is signed by the band. But when that album came out, we went and saw them and in the late 1900s, which is when that album was released. But we went and saw them. You bought a copy. You bought the same copy of that album. You spent $10 on it. I spent $110 on it 10 years later.
Yeah, I got that album, and then later I got it signed by the band. I brought it to. They were signing records at there's a store in town called Park Avenue CDs, and they had the band there, and I brought that record through and got it signed. So that was pretty sweet. But yeah. It's just like once the general public figures out something's hot, it's like it just gets inflated,
Yeah.
and then who knows if that bubble's gonna pop. People keep saying that video game bubble's gonna pop. People are gonna get bored of it and move on to the next thing, and start buying and flipping and reselling the next widget. And the old schooler, the old school fans will get their hobby back. Will it ever be as it was? Probably not.
It's annoying. A lot of my collection I started building up like 10 years ago. And the prices back then were, I mean, compared to now, saying that the prices were fair almost seems like an outrageous statement, because compared to the prices, the prices now for some of these things are astronomical. And in some instances it's like, okay, like, yeah, that's a fair price for this thing that came out a zillion years ago or whatever. But in a lot of instances, like, some of these people are like, oh, here's this thing that'll be $3,000. Like, no one's gonna pay that. Like, you're insane.
Sure, and the people who are gonna pay it are, they're probably, it's hard to say. I don't want to say they're evil, but it's like the people who have this sort of money to throw around for something like that. Something's happened where it's like, well, are they a true collector, or are they collecting because, well, it's hot and I'm gonna make some money back on this. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is annoying.
Sure. So that's why the old Chaser brothers try to chase on a budget. It's a little tougher. It's a little more work up front, because you pay expensive price. You're paying for the convenience when you pay the top dollar for the games. But if you do put in a little time investment, go around yard sales, etc., you'll find little pockets of stuff at a discount. And but that's a trade-off. We're out on the chase, but that's fun too, because we like hanging, and we like going out and seeing people and getting into hijinks on the way, on the road that's less traveled.
Yeah, ma'am, I understand.
Good. I'm glad. So. I don't know. Where are we at? Are we bottom lining it now? Is it about bottom line?
We got a little bit more before the bottom line.
I don't know if we didn't really say there was a set time on this production.
No, there's really not. I just kind of try to keep it in the ballpark of whatever. Oh,
all right. Well, what else you got? Something we haven't discussed already.
Okay, I do have something, which is so TikTok was taken down and then immediately put back up. The biggest PR stunt I've ever seen in my entire life.
Absolutely,
the biggest PR stunt that all of us have ever seen in our entire lives, which is that. Okay, fine. Even though it was like one night, it's just like, well, that's it. I guess I'm gonna go to sleep instead of staying up for another 2 hours. And then the next day it was back. I was just like, so you're swiping up to go to the next video, but to me it was more like I was tenderly just caressing the phone, like, oh yes, oh, just a little, just petting it, and just every time I pet it, another video just swiped up, like, oh, it's okay, you're back now, baby. It's all right.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. Look, talk about 24-hour news cycles. That was like a 12-hour. It was, I didn't even have time to miss it before it came back.
Right.
I had time to catch the whatever the notification was. Oh, it's offline now. Hopefully, herpty-derpty-doo, President Trump will follow through. And then the next, when it came back, was like, all hail President Trump and his benevolence. for bringing back TikTok, a Chinese application.
Yeah,
In the
it's
meantime, oh my God. Yeah, in the meantime, I saw a handful of grifts and schemes pop up in my feed like, hey, use a VPN and screen record TikTok videos and sell those for like $50 to people. I'm
oh
like,
boy.
dude, I'm like, my God. Listen, as an entrepreneur myself, I respect that hustle. But that's crazy. There is money to be made off of everything for sure, but it's just the turnaround on that. But it's in a blink of an eye the app has come back. So
Right.
I'm not really on there. I go in there every so often. I see about 100 messages from you saying links to videos. So, but I haven't looked at them.
I'm not.
Sorry.
I'm not hung up on the TikTok part so much as I'm hung up on the CapCut part. So now you're like, we don't think of this very often, but both of us use CapCut to edit videos, and you're like, I mean, Chaser also uses Final Cut, but CapCut's good for the short stuff. So you're like, man, like I didn't know CapCut was owned by TikTok, and I thought about that for a second. I'm like, yeah, it is, but so I was like, that this could be problematic. But then, okay, now bing bang boom, like, okay, there's TikTok is back. Who cares? Okay, fine. So then I go to start editing videos, and it's like, hey, CapCut's still not available. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Now I am using the desktop application. The problem here is that I can't log into it, which means I can't use the pro features, which means I can't generate captions for my videos.
Yeah,
and I am not.
You're an amateur now.
Yeah, I am not. I'm sorry. I'm not going in and manually adding captions to videos. So I find myself at this crossroads here where, am I going to put a pin on these on the content that I'm already in the middle of working on until the captions come back, or am I going to release the stuff with captions? I'm leaning towards putting a pin on the stuff that I have, which in my mind is not a bad thing because, okay, well, I can edit that stuff down, and then that's just a matter of, okay, well, I'm gonna wait. We're just gonna wait and see until I can, log in to be able to put captions on this stuff. I could still make content. This is the thing. I could still get in there and chop videos up and do whatever and produce the stuff. That's fine. I'm kind of looking at this as an opportunity to go in and work on some other stuff. I had an idea for some different short form content that's not just the Nintendo Power stuff, and I'm working on day 50, days 50 through 56 right now.
Nice, bro. Very nice.
So we got a lot of stuff, and sidebar in that the most recent crop of Nintendo Power magazines, there's been a little time skip. We don't know how. There might be an actual time skip of me, dropping these videos now that we're talking about it. But you can tell at some point in this about 20 or so issue span, there's about 2 years of magazines that I don't have from when I was buying the magazines a la carte. And then I finally was like, I'm getting a subscription to Nintendo Power. And this is in 2007 is when I start getting this subscription to Nintendo Power. And then I have a subscription all the way until the magazine ends, which is like a big chunk of magazines. But it makes me sad because somewhere in that window, they're like, hey, we're gonna do a revamp on how the magazine is laid out. And they do, like, there are a lot of cool features, but also what they did in that revamp is that they minimalized, and there's I feel like it's just a lot less colorful, and that kind of bums me out because
You like
ha-
pretty colors.
well, I have been, going through these magazines for months now and just looking at this stuff and everything. It's like every page is like, here's this main page is like a full, beautiful, like colorful, colorful, either, be wacky and cartoonish, or like when you have some of these, higher tier, like epic looking games, then it's like, here, check out this spread on Fire Emblem or whatever, and then it's just like a lot of really cool, colorful, like video game artwork. And now we're getting to these magazine spreads where it's like, well, suck the color out because it costs money to print colors. So there's a there's a lot of bold, there's a lot of black and white. It's just they adopted a more minimalist architecture to their magazines, which it bums me out a little bit. Now they did add cool features, which are I think more engaging to sit down and read the magazine. They do an interview at the end of all the magazines about people who are in the industry, and those are exciting.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing with this latest crop is I finally got to the end of the the DS era, and then it's like boom, we're getting dropped right into the Wii era. And so the magazines are different now, and I'm hoping that maybe they'll adopt a little bit more color as it goes on. But in the last couple of years of the magazine, it's, you gotta imagine, it's like, well, print media's dying. There's a thing there. They have to still make an exciting magazine. Plus have whatever, I would have to imagine, whatever financial constraints they had to work under. This might be a really cool thing that I could do where we, try to find out. Yeah, I don't think it would be hard to contact the people who worked on the magazine and just be like, hey, we do this podcast, and we're thinking about doing a little bit of interviewing some people in the industry of our own. Make a decision.
Yeah. Reach out. I mean, it's these people. I feel like people do. You reach out to these people and they're like, yeah, let's just have a chat. Here's what was going on, because it's already all happened, so it's not like they need to hold back on any sort of information or whatever. So yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, the Nintendo Power exists now as a podcast. I tried sitting down and listening to it, but it's look, also as a fledgling podcast, I didn't give it a lot of shrift, so I could I could go back in there and give it a try again, because there's got to be some sort of valuable insight in there, and that could be fun. But I'm hoping that the magazines, maybe I'm hoping that maybe they do go like, yeah, this is a little less colorful to look at. And if not, that's okay too. There's still lots of cool content in the magazines. So, making those shorts will be fun. But maybe I could do some different shorts where I kind of like dissect how the magazines laid out. When I get all those magazines, maybe I do some content about like, hey, here's how the layouts have changed through the ages, and do some long form content.
There you go. Look, that little hamster wheel inside your head actually works. It's running around in circles. It's coming up with ideas. You're really coming along with things. You're becoming a man now. And that's all I've ever wanted for you, son of Rad Chaser.
Papa, I'm glad you're proud of me.
Son, I am proud.
So yeah, that's it with this CapCut thing. Gumming me up at the moment. It'll maybe give me a chance to work on some other thing. I've had this idea for a while for love letters to video games, and the other day it finally popped into my head of how I want to do the content. It's a lot different than what I originally envisioned in my head, but what it will end up being, it will end up being pretty funny. So,
Well, good.
yeah. So I'm excited to look on that. And it's time for the bottom line.
The bottom line is where we summarize everything we've just talked about. And usually when we talk on the phone, we say, all right, if one of us is ready to get off the phone, we start saying, all right, well, let's start bottom lining this. So that's what we're going to do right now. We've added a couple of NES games to the stack, which was awesome. You know, it's almost done with January. So I'm starting out a little behind, which is fine. There's a little leeway in there. I'm not worried about it. So that was pretty cool. But I do want to add to the stack. I mean, I'm getting excited about it. I got a whole closet full of NES games. I'm basically going to double up on them. So that's pretty cool. The GameCube kiosk it's alive. It's thriving. It's not going to the mausoleum anytime soon. So I'm touching it. I'm playing on it. So it's cool. I'm very excited. I do want to get more GameCube games. I know, I've already got my main quests and my side quests for this season, but I feel like a couple of GameCube games getting in there could be something cool too. I never really got huge into the GameCube, so I'm just now going to get into it 20-something years later, 23 years later.
Oh man, there's a lot of very good GameCube games. Metroid Prime, oof, baby, that game was so great because they're like, we're gonna do a 3D Metroid game, and I just like everyone else was like, no, you're not, because that's not what it is. And then you play it and you're like, oh, this is exactly like a Metroid game. This is for sure a Metroid game, even though it's in 3D. Like they really figured it out with that. So. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, get some more GameCube games. I'm sure they're expensive, but maybe you chase down something that's not, and bing bang boom. I don't got anything else really other than I'm just gonna try to work on some different content aside from the Nintendo Power stuff. I haven't chased down any Nintendo Power lots yet, but they are out there, and I do want to be chasing them. So
that could be your homework, So get into it this week. Report back next week on the next episode, and we'll take it from there.
We call them SODs for short. We got to do that in the bottom line because there's not enough time to say the word episode.
Sure.
So
do that for the next sode. Soda Stars.
On the next episode of Soda Stars.
If anybody knows what that is, shoot us an email.
Yeah, theradchaser@gmail.com. It's the Rad Chaser, right?
Yeah, the Rad Chaser. Rad Chaser seems to be radchaser@gmail.com is taken by someone, and it's not me. So the Rad Chaser.
Yeah,
not
not the other Rad Chaser, the Rad Chaser.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's it for us. Go to YouTube or Instagram at Rad Chaser. That's where all of our content is. So see what we're cooking up. Yeah, we're done here. I'm the son of Rad Chaser. And until next time,
my beautiful chasers, please keep chasing them. This is Rad Chaser. He's almost out of here, and now he's out of here.
Rad Chaser.